Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you all how to import objects into Maya, create lights in Maya, and also use the Arnold Renderer. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just start by creating polyplane. And I'm just going to scale it a little bit bigger. I don't know, something like that. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hold D and hold V as in Victor, and I'm just going to go ahead and drag that just using the arrow tool directly off to the side. And now I'm just going to duplicate it, Control D, and I'm going to rotate it at, in my channel box, 90 degrees. Oh, negative 90. And then using my move tool again, I'm going to hold V again, and I'm just going to snap this right over here. So what I'm doing actually is I'm just creating sort of this scene, and I'm just doing sort of this little 3/4 panel here. So I'm going to duplicate this one. I'm going to rotate this one at 90 degrees. And then I'm going to go ahead and snap, holding V, this one to the center, and then straight back to the end, holding V. So now that I've got that, I've got my little scene here. I could even turn off the grid if I'd like. So that being said, I'm going to go to Display and turn off the grid. And now you see I've got this little scene. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to show you how to apply textures, but I'm going to show you how to apply them a different way. I'm going to show you how to add them using the Arnold Shader, the standard surface shader. So I'm going to click on my object. I'm going to start with the floor, and I have these materials included in the canvas shell. I'm going to hold right click and do assign new material, and under here I'm going to go to Arnold and click on Shader under the Arnold here, and then I'm going to go to AI standard surface right here. So from here you're going to see that I just have a couple things here. I can start by labeling these. Okay. So I'm going to start by just labeling them. And now that I have it labeled, I'm going to go back into my attribute editor, and I'm going to go to AI standard surface here. AI standard surface 1. I'm going to call this floor material. I don't really need to name it Arnold, but so I'm just going to name it floor material. So now in here, under base, this is going to be our base texture, such as our color map or our diffuse texture map. So I'm going to click on the little material here, the little file finder, the little checkerboard, label color it's called, and I'm just going to go ahead and click on file. Now in here I can go ahead and locate under image name, and I'm going to locate for the floor the floor material, and here we go. I'm going to locate checkerfloor.jpg. So now that I have it assigned, and I can even label my files. This isn't as big of a deal. You can skip this step, but floor material or floor texture file. That'll work. So now that I've got my base texture assigned, and you can see a little preview of it here, it's still not visually being seen in our Maya scene here. So what do I need to do? If you remember, I need to press something on the keyboard. I have to press the number 6. Now when I press the number 6, you'll notice my texture does display. So 4 is wireframe, 5 is shaded, and 6 is shaded with texture maps. So I need to have 6 on to be able to view it in my viewport. Okay. So now I'm going to go to my wall 1 mesh, and I'm going to hold right click and assign a new material. I'm going to go to Shader under Arnold, and I'm going to go to Standard Surface. And again, I'm going to locate a file and locate my stone wall diffuse because it's my base color. And now we run into this issue where it's like so. What I could do is I could rotate it, right? But that doesn't work too well, right? Unless I do a modify and center pivot, and now it'll work just right. And I'll just rotate it at 90 degrees. So modify center pivot. Now, another way I can do this, I can assign, this is going to be, I'm going to label this, I apologize, I forgot to label this. I'm going to call this wall material. And I'm going to go over here into color. And I'm just going to name this wall texture file. You don't have to do that. It's just for when I come back to this if I need to. So now I need to assign that same texture file to here. So I'm going to hold right click. I'm going to go to assign existing material, and I'm going to do wall material. All right. Again, I have the same issue. It's rotated at the wrong axes. I could do the modify center pivot again. Or I'm going to show you another way. I'm going to go to Panels, Saved Layouts, Perspective UV Editor, and I could do it this way also. And under my UV Toolkit, which would be Tools, Show, Hide, UV Toolkit. So once you hit Show, it'll pop up. And then I just dock it over here. And under Transform in my UV Toolkit, I'm going to go to my Rotate, and I'm just going to rotate it 90 degrees. And now you're going to see in here, it is just rotated. Now, if you would like, you can always sort of, if you wanted to, these bricks to sort of match differently, you can always do it again. I just use the Move UV Shell toolkit, and you can go ahead and just rotate it again a couple different ways, and now you'll have it sort of be like so. So anyway, now what I'm going to do, now that I have this sort of started, I need to add my extra materials in here. So I'm going to click on my, I'll start with the floor because I started with the floor first. So we've only assigned the base material here. Now I want to go ahead and add the normal map and the specular map. So I'm going to click on my floor material, and I'm going to go under specular color, so under the color tab. I'm going to go to my file. I'm going to locate my file, clicking on the little file button, and I'm doing floor, checker floor, specular. And I'm going to click open. Alright, now this is going to make a big difference for when we begin to render. So I want to see if you'll notice, if you can see any difference. I'm going to go to the specular map next on the wall. So I want to just see if you can actually see. I want you to take a look at how it's sort of being lit. And you may not notice it too much because I don't have lights in the, I mean, it has the default lighting, but I would hope it does show it. I'm going to click File on my here and click over here, and then I'm going to locate checker. Oh, wait. Under specular here, sorry, I was looking for the floor, but I'm looking for the wall actually. I'm going to name this specular wall specular texture file. Okay, and then under image name, you don't have to name the file, I'm just doing it because I'm a stickler for stuff like that. Wall specular. I'm going to click open, and that'll affect both of these. I don't know if you'll see too much of a difference yet, but it does make a huge difference when we get into the actual rendering. So, and the last but not least, and lighting, is geometry. So in geometry, I'm going to click on, in the wall material here, I'm going to click on my geometry and do the little bump mapping here. Under bump mapping, I'm going to hit the label icon. I'm going to do File. I'm going to change this to Use as Tangent Space Normals. This is the most important little checkbox to change. You know, this is a little drop down menu you cannot forget about, because if you leave it as a bump map, it's going to look super weird. So make sure you change it to tangent space normals. Then from here, I can go to my file, and I'll name this. This is going to be wall normal texture file. And I'm going to click on my map name, or image name here, and I'm going to go to stone wall normal and click open. And now you should see a major difference, especially as we rotate around. You'll see it starts to get that really intricate depth, and with the along with the specular map, it does play well with the normal map. So just an FYI, they do sort of play hand in hand. And you'll see here you sort of get that illusion of depth, especially from the top, because I just have the lighting's actually coming from the top. So, and you can start to see how those bump out as before they didn't. So if I go to my legacy default, this won't show normal maps or specular maps, and this is how it would look without any of that on. And I'm going to switch back to my viewport 2.0, and you'll see that you get a lot more detail in there. Now I'm going to go back to my floor, and I'm going to click on my attribute editor. I want to change this to okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and add my normal map under my bump mapping, and again file, and I'm going to locate my image and do checker floor normal.tga and click open. And now I've got my, this looks it's probably just a little bit too high in intensity, but it's not too shabby. But you do get sort of this look to it that adds a little bit of depth to it. So now that I've got that all set up, right, I'm going to begin to, and this will be floor. Okay. And I'm going to begin to import objects into the scene now that I sort of got this set up. Now in case you do have any issues with normal maps in the future, I might as well cover this right now. I'm going to go into Photoshop, and if I go into my checker floor here, and I want to change it, I can always duplicate it if I like. I can do Filter, 3D, Generate Normal Map. And you'll see I can invert the height. I think this, I guess I think this one looks a little bit better. And if I do detail scale, I can kind of raise and lower the, I don't like to mess around with the blur because it just doesn't look right. So I leave it sort of at 0.5. And I can always increase this to be extremely harsh, which is, I think, is what's happening, why it's looking a little strange. So I'm going to bring it to like 15. And I think I'll just leave it at maybe 20. Maybe 20. I think 20 is pretty good. Take a little bit more. I know I'm going a little bit more, but I do like that detail to sort of bleed through a little bit. I think 20 is a pretty good size. So I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to save this out, because I thought the other one, if you look at the comparison, how harsh this is, and it looks really, really, really checker floor in comparison to this, where I think this will actually play much more nicely with the checker floor. And before I do that, I'm going to close out of this one. And now with this, I'm going to save as Control-Shift-S. I'm going to go to TGA, checker floor normal.tga, and I'm just going to save this out and make sure that's off, and save, and yes, and OK. And now back in Maya, I'm going to go ahead and here and click reload. And now you see I don't have that really weird, strange looking harshness to it. It plays much nicer with the subtle normal map versus the extreme normal map on the floor. So it was just a little too much depth going in there, and sort of this repetitious sort of look to it that didn't look nice. So anyway, if you do run into that issue, that's a great way to sort of solve that. Now back to importing objects. So now I'm going to need to go ahead and locate my objects. So File, Import, and I guess I'll leave this over here for now. And 3D. Just a second. And I need to locate I'm just going to bring this over here. I need to locate some of the files I'm looking to import. So week 1 we do the bookshelf, so I'm going to import the bookshelf. And I'll rescale this here momentarily. And I'm just going to rotate this. Bring this over here. And when I get further, I'll scale everything to match. Now I'm going to do another import. So just File, Import. It can import OBJ files as we exported for Photoshop. So we can import OBJ files, and we can also import Maya files. So go back over here. I want to say this one. So I'm going to import my crate. So there's my crate. Just shift that over for now. I'm also going to import my barrel. Okay, so I've got both of those in here. And this one I'm going to scale down a little bit. I think it's a little bit too big in comparison. And even if I do leave it at that size, I definitely need to bring the bookshelf up. So something like that. And I'll play with scale here just momentarily. And scale is an extremely important thing. So I'll leave the barrel here in the corner. That's good enough. And then I need to import a couple more things. Let's see, no, not this one. Oh, here we go. And I need to locate my not the projection texture. Oh, sorry about that. That was the wrong thing. File, Import. Here we go. Import, continue. And now I've also got this in the scene. Now, I know I've showed you how to texture on Blinn, on Lambert, and now the Arnold surface shader. But here's a little tedious task. I need to show you those previous sort of materials just so you, one, understand the difference. And maybe I put this, I don't know, maybe I put it on the ground. Like it's leaning against something over here. I think that'll be kind of cool. maybe just looking for it to sort of be kind of leaning on this thing. And maybe it's actually just leaning over here. I don't know. I'm just trying to look for a decent composition, but it's kind of hard when I don't actually even know my camera position yet. So, but I do want it to sort of be the focal point, because the shield is pretty cool, and we spent a lot of time on it, so I don't know, something like that for now. Okay, and then I'll also import the sword, which would be maybe here we go, sword, import, continue. Alright, alright, alright. So now that I've got all of my objects, maybe I have this one just sort of laying across here too. I think someone just sort of threw it down. So now I'm going to, in the next video, show you how to render. So this is just importing objects. So I hope, and that's fine for now. I'll leave it like that, and maybe give it a little twist on it. This is just importing objects. So in the next video, I'm going to cover how to render light and render in using the Arnold Renderer. Okay, and bring this back this way. And something like so. So anyway, I hope this video was helpful. Message me if you have any questions, and stay tuned for the next one, because we're going to cover lighting and rendering in Arnold next. Thanks for watching, and message me if you have any questions.